Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. It is Labor Day today. It is Monday. It is the 1st of September. Oh my goodness, the summer's over. That's sad. And we're reading through the Bhagavad Gita still. We're reading through the Bhagavad Gita. And we're talking about its relevance in our lives. And we're trying to make our lives a little bit more centered around the Gita, a little bit more aligned with these spiritual truths. Because we've realized that as we've done that, our lives have become more blissful, more peaceful, right? More connected. And so that's why we come here together every Monday and Thursday to learn these spiritual truths and to really reflect on how they show up in our lives and how we can make them show up in our lives more. So today we're on the 98th episode. We're almost to 100. And we are in the seventh chapter. We're in the seventh chapter. We started the Bhakti section, so it's getting really sweet. And we're going to start with text 15 today. And also, we have a Gita in Action retreat this weekend at New Vrindavan. It's not too late. We had a couple cancellations, so we opened a couple tickets up on the website, on the New Vrindavan website. You can still come, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to have lots of kirtan. We're going to have a bonfire. We're going to have delicious prasad. So please come and bask in the association. Oh, before we start, Shakti, do you want to lead us in prayers?
I
Shakti?
sure do. Here I am. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kara Mayam Danatisva Pandatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savat Utam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Guna Lata Shri Vishakavitams He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Garungi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Prananami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavembhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Guru Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
So nice. Thank you, Shakti. Our consciousness is fully prepared to absorb this knowledge. So let's start chapter 7, text 15. I'll share my screen. And Stella, when you're ready, can you read for us?
Yes. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me.
Thank you. So in the previous verse, Krishna said that if you just surrender to him, you can be free from illusion. Remember, that's where we ended in the last class. It's like the secret sauce. Want to become free from illusion, just surrender to him. And so naturally the question comes up, well, if that's the case, then why doesn't everyone just surrender? If that's the secret sauce and he's telling us, why isn't everyone just taking it? Right? When we all just choose to be free from suffering. So this is Krishna's answering this this question here. There's certain tendencies or certain categories of people that block us from surrendering. And honestly, it's not just those people out there. Right? We oftentimes like to hear these things and we think, oh, wow, that person's really lost. Right? No, we can all find traces of these tendencies in ourselves. Right? And so when we find these traces of our tendency in ourselves, these tendencies in ourselves, we should understand that they're blocking our surrender, like it's like there's a water flowing through a pipe and it's like choked. It's like maybe a little water's coming through, maybe not at all, maybe it's completely blocked. But these tendencies in people, they block our surrender. So good. It's good just to be aware of them and notice when they come up. Right? So the first, we'll walk through each one of these so that we understand them a little bit better. The first is the foolish. Okay, these are foolish people. These are people who work so hard, but only for animal-like pleasures. And scriptures will compare them to a donkey because a donkey, works endlessly. They're carrying heavy loads. Right? They're working so hard, yet the reward is just like a little bit of grass. Something it could have gotten without all the suffering. So in the same way, people sometimes, people will exhaust their intelligence, their energy, just for the basic pleasures of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, which are, pleasures that animals have. Again, what differentiates us from animals is our capacity for spiritual understanding. Without that, we're just coming up with more refined ways to eat, to sleep, to mate, defend, which is again on the level of what animals do. Animals enjoy these things without even all the struggle. Right? And there's nothing wrong with these things. They're natural needs. But if that's all that life is about, then we're foolish, right? Then we've missed the higher opportunity of being human. And I think a lot of us realize this, I know for me, like you go to college, you get a job, and then you're just like working. And you're like, what is the point of all this? It's like this aha moment of like you work so hard your whole life to get there. You get there, and then it's like, what are we doing? I spend my money on this nice house that I'm hardly at. I'm at just to sleep. I have this great big kitchen. I never even have time to cook or like do anything that I like to do. It's just we work so hard just for these basic needs. Right? And the irony is like you may even be a little bit attracted to spiritual life. You may have like a little spark of spiritual inclination. But because you're so caught up in chasing comforts, you don't have time for it. Does this happen to us? It's like how often you think like, okay, I'll focus on that. I'll focus on my spiritual life later, right? I'm just too busy right now. I'm in the midst of it. This is a season. I'm just in the midst of it. I just don't have time. So Krishna's calling this tendency foolish. I like to say to people too, like, we're not victims of our own lives, right? Like we create our lives, how busy we are, how full they are, how much time we're spending on all of these things, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. We create that, right? We manifest that. That's just manifested from our desires. And just as easily we can change it. And it might take some time and it might not be, different. It might be like just we may be able to just put little drops of spiritual activities in our lives at a time, but we can change it. We're not victims of our own lives. And if we are, then we're kind of foolish. That's what Krishna's saying here, right? Being so busy carrying loads for temporary pleasures, right, that we forget that the greater treasure of spiritual fulfillment that's right in front of us. And okay, so that's the first kind. So again, it's not like these are just 4 different kinds of people that are out there and we're so happy we're not them. No, we all have these tendencies. So let's kind of reorientate like that and try to see where these tendencies show up in our lives. Okay, the next one is the lowest among mankind. That's what Krishna says, the lowest among mankind. Right? So this is human life is meant for awakening spiritual consciousness, right? We're all on the same page there. That's the purpose of this life. So what differentiates us from animals, we have this capacity for higher consciousness, higher states of consciousness. It's meant for awakening spiritual consciousness. So if we imagine consciousness as a spectrum, at the highest level of consciousness, you have pure love of God. Okay, and at the lowest level, you have no interest in spiritual life at all. Right? Like animals don't have capacity for spiritual life. Right? They have kind of a low consciousness. Right? So when you have no interest in spiritual life at all, you're at the very bottom. That's what Krishna is calling the lowest among mankind. People who have essentially just rejected their spiritual capacity. And these people, they might be super advanced, like socially, politically, scientifically, right? It's like all these material accolades, but without spiritual direction, their human potential, it's wasted. Right? So the difference between these people and the foolish that we just talked about is that the foolish are just so busy chasing material life that they neglect spiritual life. Okay, but the lowest among mankind, they don't even care about spiritual life in the first place. It's like they have zero interest. They don't even care. I mean, the tragedy is, everyone needs God, but they don't even realize it. So, so that's the lowest of mankind. That's the second category of people Krishna talks about in this verse. The third is those whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. That's what he says. Okay, knowledge is stolen by illusion. So we'll break this down too. These people are often the smartest people in the room, right? Scientists, philosophers, professors, poets, even like religious scholars. They're sharp. Their studies are deep, right? But here's the catch: with all that capacity, all that ability, their intelligence doesn't actually lead them to liberation. I mean, you can think of it like a prisoner that's in a jail cell, and they're doing like their PhD on the architecture of the jail walls or something. It's like, okay, that's kind of impressive. Maybe it could be useful, right? But is it going to get him out of prison? Right? No, no, it's not going to get him out of prison. So it's in the same way, these people will pour their energy into knowledge that may be brilliant in the material sense, but it doesn't point them towards freedom from suffering. So these are the people that are like climbing up the wrong tree, and they're real good climbers. They're real good climbers. So they're getting pretty far in a material sense, but they're not actually getting to the goal of human life, which is liberation, because they're climbing up the wrong tree, right? That tree doesn't bear those fruit. And the Bhagavad Gita tells us, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, right? The source of everything, the father of all beings, right? Yet because of illusion, these intellectuals, they dismiss him. They may see God as like, like a high person, right? They may not be anti-God, right? They just see him as like a myth, like a mythology. Is that a word? Like a myth, right? A historical figure. That's how they'll treat him, right? Like a historical figure. And so they have all this knowledge, but instead of using it to break free, they get entangled in it. These are the people that, we're driving down the road towards our destination, their transcendence, and they get really caught up in like all the flowers along the way. That they are like stopping and just and studying those flowers, getting to like, understand photosynthesis, like all of the things, but they never make it to their destination because they get too involved with the things along the way. Right? This illusion, it hijacks the very purpose of their intelligence. So instead of using this knowledge to break free, they get entangled in it. And a lot of times, because these people are like super respected, they're professors or thought leaders or experts, right? They're not just blocking their own path, but they end up misleading others too. Because they'll misinterpret spiritual text. They'll take them as like theory. Okay, so this is the third category of people. Knowledge has been stolen by illusion. Their brilliance, instead of becoming a bridge to God, becomes a stumbling block. And they know so much that they miss the essential truth. And that surrender to Krishna is truly what frees us from misery. Okay, and this brings us to the last one here, the demoniac. Okay, this is the most extreme category. These people are envious of God, right? They don't just ignore him, they actively oppose him. They want to demolish faith in God to deride and defy the very idea of a higher power. You know, we can think of them as like fanatical atheists. Okay, so here's the point. Again, it's not just four separate groups of bad people that we're so far away from, right? We all have these tendencies to some degree, right? Sometimes we'll act foolishly, right? We just get too caught up in the shiny objects around us, right? Whatever lures our attention, that all of a sudden our life is so full and it's like, okay, I don't have time for spiritual life. That's foolish, right? Sometimes we'll misuse our intelligence, right? We'll have all this capacity, but we'll get so enamored and infatuated with the things along the way that we miss the point. Right? Sometimes we resist God's will, right? We have those demoniac tendencies. We try to be God, right? We try to be the center. And so the point is that all of these tendencies, they choke our surrender. And so we learned we want to surrender. Surrender is the way out. Surrender is the way out of this maze. Okay, these things are keeping you from surrender, right? Notice these things in your life. Notice where they show up in your life. Notice that they're blocking your connection with Krishna, right? And maybe do something about it. Maybe do something about it, right? And the beautiful point is that through Krishna's mercy, anyone, even if you're completely full of one of these tendencies or all of these tendencies, right, you can be elevated, right? If someone just gets a little spark of faith and you nurture it, you can overcome these tendencies and gradually turn towards Krishna. So in the next verse, Krishna is going to flip the picture and he's going to describe those who do surrender to him and how beautiful that looks. Okay, so the takeaway here for us is let's be honest about which of these four tendencies we see in ourselves, right? And rather than beating ourselves up, use it as a fuel to lean a little bit more into surrender. Maybe to chant a little bit more sincerely, to pray, to study the Gita with an open heart, because that's what frees us from illusion. So what do you guys think of that? Do you guys identify with any of these tendencies? You know, foolishness, neglecting spiritual life, misusing your intelligence, resisting God.
Can I share something?
Yeah, please.
Um, in the third one, there's a pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys are hungry. And they go and they ask for food from the Brahmins, from the Gyanis, the very learned scholars. And because they're absorbed in their rituals, they ignore them. They ignore
Mm.
Krishna and Balaram. And so then Krishna and Balaram go to the wives, and the wives serve them. And then afterwards, the Brahmin go like, oh my, after they see that, they realize that their offense and they feel such remorse because they see their wife's devotion to Krishna. So these are just the Brahmins, like the same thing you're talking about, the Gyanis. Um, but yeah, I mean, that has nothing to do with what I feel about this, but I just thought that was a good, so I was holding my hand up. It's just a good kind of visual.
Yeah, and so this category of people they have that intellectual capacity, but they're not even attracted to spiritual life. So they're actually like even a step away from the Yanis. At least the Yanis they have intellectual capacity, but they're like detaching from the world. These people are like using their intellectual capacity to like attach more to the world. You know what I mean? But yeah, that is a really beautiful example of of chasing the wrong thing, right? Like losing sight of what the real thing is, but maybe in a little bit different way. But yeah, thank you. Anybody else want to share? Yes.
I'm often foolish. I mean, life, gets away. I mean, I do have a chronic, health issue, but it's it's still I I mean, I felt completely like, yeah, there's a lot more room I can make for spiritual life. Um, and I'm hoping once I retire soon, that I'll really like have, I wouldn't have that excuse anymore, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that's such like American culture. You know,
Yeah.
it's like our lives have to be completely filled up. And if not, it's like FOMO. You know, it's like and filled up, it's like between family obligations, work,
Yeah.
the recreation. It's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, where's time for spiritual life? Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely. Spiritual life is not like, like working out is like a staple. It's like, okay, yeah, I have to work out every day. Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great if that was like the same for spiritual life as like, if that culture held that to the same degree,
Yeah.
because it's like the whole body workout, like the full, the subtle body, the mind, the spiritual life. So, yeah. Yeah, I think we all really can relate to that one too, because our culture is built around it, built around working hard for what, right? Yeah, thank you.
Um, Rada, which one was the one where your work, you're like literally your work, like I'm actually almost retired, Stella. So it's funny. I can kind of understand now. But I have now I have FOMO of like Radha Priti wrote this morning. Oh, I didn't get to read your thing. I was planning a festival or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, she's planning a fest. She was planning the festival. Oh my God! So like I have like spiritual FOMO. Which I guess is better than the other kind of FOMO, but it's like not in a way of like it causes me to self-reflect and go, why are you like feeling that way? And it's like because I want to be more spirit, I want to have more spiritual connection that way. So it's kind of a a little shift. But like my husband, he literally does what you said. He leaves here like 8 in the morning, gets home 7:30, 8 at night to have something to eat, to go to sleep. Like he literally lives to pay for our home. Like and like I'm always saying to him, we don't get to spend time together. And he goes, well, should I not work? Like
Mm.
it's like that kind of like he'd like to spend more time too, but somebody has to pay for the house, right?
Yeah.
It's and that is totally American culture.
Yeah.
Living to pay for your basic needs, your home.
Yeah. Yeah, we work so hard over here. It really it doesn't make much sense. But you brought up another good point too, is like that we can carry our material tendencies into spiritual life. But the difference there is that our spiritual life will liberate us from them, kind of like what you said. It gives us that opportunity to see, because at least our goal is right. Maybe we're kind of fumbling a little bit on the way to get there, but at least our goal is such that if we keep at it, we'll get there eventually. Even like that story you told, about the brahmanas. Their goal, they want that, their goal is not material, at least. And so if they keep sincerely working, and Krishna will reveal to you. They'll see. Yeah. Okay, should we move on to the next verse and learn about the four kinds of people who um, approach God? We have this is kind of the theme of today's class. We have lots of fours. Okay, Stella, when you're ready. 16.
Okay. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute.
Great. This is like a popular trivia question, Spiritual life, you see this, like who are the four kinds of people who approach God? The four types of people. So we remember the distressed, the seekers of wealth, the curious, and the wise. Right? Okay, so these four kinds of people, they're not quite yet pure devotees because they usually want something in return for their devotion. Like they're approaching God for a reason, not just pure selfless devotion, right? And that's like our gold standard. That's where we want to get, right? Because a pure devotee is serving without expecting anything in return. You know, that they're serving with the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu defines this pure devotee as someone who's like serving with love without any selfish motive, right? Without chasing material gain, without being covered by dry philosophical speculation, right? Like the Brahmanas, like Shakti was talking about, right? Like or fruitive activities, right? They're not chasing material pleasures, right? It's just devotion offered simply because we want to please him. Okay, so that's the gold standard. That's where we want to get, right? But the hopeful part that is that even if we approach Krishna for mixed reasons, you know, maybe you do want some relief, right? Maybe you want some money, maybe you want some answers, maybe some knowledge. Right? If you stick around and you keep at it and you come in touch with genuine devotees, your hearts can gradually become purified. Right? And over time, you too can become a pure devotee. So that's why these reasons, you know, that's not ultimately why we want to approach God, but it's better than nothing. And it's better than all those other, you know, getting caught up in material pursuits or just using your intelligence for, you know, to create an atomic bomb or, you know, it's like at least their goal is situated rightly, right? Such that even if they're approaching God and they're not, their motive isn't totally pure, but God is still, they still have God as a higher power, right? Even if their motives are mixed, right? They can meet pure devotees and they can become, and their hearts can become pure very quickly. Right? So that's the power of devotion. Once that spark is lit, it has the potential to burn away all impurities. So let's look at these four kinds of seekers. Okay. The distressed, right? Those who turn to God in troubled times. And when life is smooth, it's easy to forget about him. But when a crisis hits, you know, sickness, heartbreak, danger, suddenly we're like, God, please protect my family. Please make this go smoothly. Right? Have you guys heard the saying, there's no atheist in a foxhole? It's in like life or death moments. You know, even the most skeptical person might cry out like, God, please help me. Right? That's the distressed seeker. And we all can relate to this. You get a scary diagnosis, you know, your relationship falls apart, you lose your job. Now, these are the moments where it's easy to turn to God. You know, even if you're a person who've never thought about prayer before, you may fold your hands and find yourself praying like, God, please help me through this. And I remember this happening to me when I was in high school. I was running a race. I ran cross country. I was running a race and I passed out. And I was like, my mind was just like not quite there. I was like trying to crawl to the finish line. I was only like half cognizant. Anyway, I remember making a deal like, God, if you let me live, like I will go to church every Sunday. You know, it's like that's what happened when you're in a really distressed place. That's like your last hope, right? And so it may not be pure love, but it's sincere at least. Like in that moment, you're feeling helpless. You know that there's shelter beyond yourself, right? And Krishna is so merciful that he accepts even that. He accepts even that. And we see this like as we go around, you know, in life, a lot of what's kind of becoming popular now is people approaching this spirituality for like practical reasons. You know, just to like find a little peace in their life. Like maybe it's you get into a yoga or meditation or like devotional music. You know, you get some kind of relief from stress from these things. Because we all know stress is everywhere. Even if if like the most successful, you know, has it all kind of person has stress in their lives, right? So some of these spiritual techniques, you know, of yoga, meditation, music, it's like peaceful. It's like jumping into a pool. It's like you get kind of cooled off from the material burning, right? And it's not bad. Krishna doesn't reject someone who's looking for relief. He's welcoming them. But we don't want to stop there, right? If we stop there, we miss out. If we just become that person who goes from like festival to festival, just like cooling off in the pool, just to like get a little bit relief, you're missing out because those things there, it's like the welcome mat at the door of spirituality. It's like getting you inside, but it's not the whole house. So that's why we come here and we study philosophical texts like the Gita. It's so valuable, right? Because if we approach it with an open mind, we see that this philosophy, it's not like heavy baggage, it's like a compass. And we need this compass. It's not just explaining why these practices help us feel better, but it's showing us, it's like the doorway into showing us how to go deeper and where real peace comes from. Right? Those practices, if you're a little bit attracted to music or yoga or meditation or that's a doorway in to really understanding the philosophical depth behind these practices to connect that will help you connect deeper. Right? So that's okay too. You're looking for a little bit of relief, no problem. Krishna accepts you. Right? But don't stop there. Right? Don't stop there. Keep seeking to understand so that you can go deeper, 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 and actually, use that as a compass to follow that treasure map to the treasure. But sometimes distress it makes you look for that treasure map. But once we find it, we have to seek so we follow the treasure. So again, these paths, it's okay. These are good. Right? They're not bad, but they're just not the highest. Right? And that brings us to the next one, which is the desire of wealth. Someone who comes to God looking for money, for success, for career, for good relationship. This is like, when you're praying for things. Students maybe prays like, help me pass this exam, or we all know what it's like praying for material things. Even if it's good, even if it's positive material things, like a good wife or a good child. Right? And we may think like, oh, isn't that selfish? And yeah, it's not, it might not be like the highest devotion, but Krishna's still considering them, pious because at least they're acknowledging that he's the source of everything. Right? And that's what I say, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the people in the last verse that just like aren't surrendering at all, like they're making material life like the center of their world, right? That's dangerous. But at least if you're approaching God in a way that you're acknowledging that he's the source of everything, that at least he's above, right? He's the source of everything. Then at least you have something to progress to. Right? And at least you're open to it, such that if you meet devotees or you meet people that are really devout followers, that it can transform your heart, right? Because you're open to it. And so these people, they're not just hustling on their own, they're recognizing a higher power. And through that connection, you can gradually purify your desires. Okay, so that brings us to the next category. So far we've done people who are distressed approach God. We can all relate to that. People who desire things. Maybe they're not distressed, but they desire things, right? They approach God. The next is people that are curious. People that just come to him out of curiosity. Maybe they're not in a crisis. Maybe they're not chasing wealth. They just want to know, like, what is this God that everyone talks about? Right? What's the soul? Why do people chant? Right? What is up with this kirtan? Right? Is there something beyond this world? Someone who maybe just wanders into a church or a temple because, maybe music was uplifting, or someone picks up a spiritual text, right? Just because they've heard that it's an ancient book of wisdom, right? They're not like desperate. They're not bargaining. They're just kind of curious. Right? And that's good. Curiosity is like one of the most natural parts of being a human. From the time we're kids, we want to explore. I see that in my daughter. It's like ridiculous. Every little thing that she can wrap her hand around, she wants to grab and see what it is and then put it in her mouth. It's like it's a part of being a human. right? But the real question is like, where do we point that curiosity? Right? Because this curiosity is like a flashlight. If you point it at Netflix or celebrity gossip or the next big like gadget, you'll light up, you might be a little entertained, but not much else. Right? So we want to be a little bit mindful of where we're pointing our curiosity flashlight. Are we pointing it at deeper questions? Who am I? Why am I here? What is God? And if we can point the flashlight at things like that, it'll reveal a whole new world. And for this we have to be careful. Again, what we're like immersing our consciousness in, because naturally we'll become curious about it. I know last year that movie Wicked came out. That Wicked came out on Thanksgiving. It was like the day before my baby was due. My husband and I were like, okay, let's go see this movie. It'll be a nice way just to kind of like relax before the baby comes. I got so into that movie. I came home and was like, I think for like a couple days, I was just like Googling everything Wicked, how it was made, the characters, how it's, it's just like, I became so curious about everything because that my flashlight was on that movie. Again, not bad, but just to notice. I mean, even then I was like, wow, I've wasted a lot of time studying this Wicked film. When like if you point your flashlight on things that are going to elevate your consciousness, right? I could have been pointing my flashlight. If you go to a kirtan, you meet devotees, you come here, right? You get a little bit curious. It's natural. So just know that's our tendency, but let's connect it to something that's going to elevate us, right? Because when our curiosity shines on Krishna, it becomes one of our greatest strengths. When we hear someone speak with genuine joy about their spiritual practice, right? When we taste the peace of mantra meditation, right? When wisdom clicks and life makes sense, this curiosity awakens something deeper. And if that spark is nurtured, it doesn't just stay curiosity, but it blossoms into faith and devotion and ultimately love for Krishna. Okay, so curiosity is good, not something to suppress. It's just something to aim wisely. And when directed towards God, it becomes the doorway to a whole new life. And that starts with your environment, your culture, what you're exposing yourself to, because naturally that's what you're going to become curious about. I also think of Instagram in this, you turn on Instagram and it's like something clicks, something captures your attention. And then all of a sudden you have like a million videos of that one thing that you clicked on. It's like marketing takes advantage of this fact that we're all so curious. It's like whatever you're talking about, you can just go down such a deep rabbit hole. All of a sudden it's like I've been looking at these videos of this useless thing for, an hour because I'm curious. So you got to be careful. People, it gets exploited even. Okay, so next is the seeker of knowledge. This is the last one. Okay, people seek out God because they're curious, because they're looking for something, they want something, and because they are struggling. Right? Because they're struggling. This last one is the seeker of knowledge. Okay, this is the most elevated of the four. This is people who already understand, like at least intellectually, that there's a spiritual reality beyond matter. Right? And they want to know the absolute truth. So they're not just like curious in a casual way, right? But they're like searching deeply. They may study philosophy, scriptures, meditate, right? Not for material gain, but because they really want to understand what is eternal, who God is, right? What the soul's relationship with him is. Right? So Krishna is saying these people are very dear to him because they're on the threshold of true devotion. Okay, so we made it through the four categories of people who approach God. Okay, so even though these four categories start from different places, pain, desire, curiosity, knowledge, Krishna welcomes them all, right? Because no matter the motive, once someone turns towards him, Krishna can work with that. Right? Their heart becomes a little bit open. And through this continued practice, and especially through the association of pure devotees, these motivations can evolve. Right? We saw this example with like Dhruva text in the Bhagavatam. Right? He approached God for material things. He met a pure devotee, right? And his motivations evolved, and he became a great devotee. So we see countless examples like this in the Bhagavatam. So at first, Krishna might sound like a divine order supplier, right? Someone we run to when we need something. But gradually, by his grace, he becomes the object of our love. And so the takeaway for us in this is it doesn't matter why we come to Krishna, just come. Right? Whether you're struggling, whether you're seeking, whether you're curious, whether you're studying deeply, turning towards him is always auspicious. Because from there, he'll guide us towards this pure devotion. So what do you guys think of this? Do you guys relate with these types of seekers? Approaching spirituality just for practical reasons? And then also noticing how that experience evolved over time. I just walked into a yoga studio. I wasn't even looking for spirituality. I was just looking for a good workout. And then like the philosophy, you know how they say those things during yoga classes, like just let go of your attachment to, like all of those things. I was like, wow, this feels kind of good. This is kind of nice. And then I was like, oh, I'll take a yoga teacher training. I'll learn more about these things. And then before I didn't know it, I mean, a few years after that, I, met a devotee, and it was like the rest is history. But, just like, it's just doorways in. We all need a doorway in from where we are. And from there, Krishna can really work magic in our lives. What do you
Yeah,
guys think?
I was just
I
gonna
think,
share. Oh,
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say when I first was like a teenager, it was a little bit mix of like curiosity and distress. It was like
Yeah.
kind of disturbed by like how a lot of my peers were and like not really understanding like life. Like, but then I was just also curious, like, what is this like? Because I grew up, but I never really studied much, even though I grew up in it. I was just like, what is this religion I'm part of? Like, what is this like culture I come from that I really don't know anything about? That like people tend to judge just from the outside. So mine was definitely like curiosity and like mixed with distress, and then coming back, and then I like went off to college and all that, and I kind of just I just kind of like fell away from it. And then coming back into it the past couple of years, it's definitely been more like out of distress, like just realizing how much the material world just knocks you down, and realizing like there's something better out there, and like need to go back to it. But I just want some clarity on the last one. You were saying in the text it says, what's the last one? In pursuit of
Knowledge,
knowledge of the supreme absolute, right?
the seeker of knowledge, right?
So it's not just, so it's just, yeah, just wanting knowledge. It's not wanting devotion. I see. I would
Right.
think that I would say I have like a mix of that, like just wanting to know everything. Um,
Yeah, this is maybe it has a little bit more like Yanni tendencies. Yeah, they're looking more for knowledge. Yeah. They're
okay.
not quite to that level of a pure devotee.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember actually in the Holy Name retreat this past May when we were in there, and Sachinandan Swami had us do this meditation where we meditated on like when we die.
Mm.
It was like, what do you want to tell and but he's also like having us meditate on like, through your lifetimes, there's been that person that's always been there with you. And what do you want to tell that person that's always been there with you? And even then, I really got in touch. Like, I want to tell that person I want out of this material world because I'm suffering, and like that really came to me. And then when I went and did my japa, I was like praying like, Krishna, I only want you because I'm distressed here. Like when will I have that devotion? When will I have that love that those devotees have who come here because they love you? There's people who come here and suffer just to serve you.
Mm.
Like Prabhupada came here just to serve you here and give everyone like, that unalloyed devotion. So then my japa was really good because I was praying for that unalloyed devotion, but yeah, I'm definitely in the distress category most of the time. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful realization though, Mariah. is that like we can, and this is so much a part of the practice because we're all like sadhakas, we're all practicing to get there, and we all have these mixed motives. But what we can do with those motives is use those motives to fuel our practice. In that, just like you said, we're praying for something deeper. Like, God, I recognize like that I'm approaching you just because I want some relief from this material suffering, but please take that desire and transform it into pure love for you, because that is what I really want, but I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
Right? That's really beautiful. And then, like you said, you felt really strong and connected in your japa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get back to that place again.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Thank you.
Because it's there for us. Yeah. We shouldn't lose sight of that's what we're actually here for. And we're so like, we're like drowning, that when you're drowning, it's like hard to really think of swimming. It's like you just want some relief from the drowning. You just want to come up for air. Right? But it's like, no, you can actually like swim. You don't have to just come up for air and just survive. You can like flow, right? And connect, and that's what we actually want as devotees. So we pray for that, even when we're drowning. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Was Stella, were you gonna say something?
Um, I mean, I just, what Mariah said was so beautiful and true. I loved it. I also, as a, young person and a teenager was very inquisitive, but also, in distress. So, like that kind of, even when I was very tiny, I was always like, what is this world? Why are like, who is this God that I go to church every Sunday? Like I was really, it always seemed like there was more. Um, and then of course, once you hit puberty, you realize the world's gonna start smashing you. So that got all mixed in, but also um I also wanted, the knowledge of it too. I'm a librarian. I'm like really into finding out things, so I can, not I can so I can identify with that seeking knowledge um, too. Not, not as I would never call myself a jnani, but like I wanted to know. I felt like there was something to know. I think that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's beautiful. And that's where we're going next. Krishna's gonna say that one is the highest. And we'll learn why that's the one's the highest. But um, yeah, we'll get there. Thank you for those shares. So this is the beauty of this verse, right? We're all from different places. Krishna welcomes us all. Right? So now we're gonna hear which one's the highest. All right, let's go there. That might be the last verse we do today. 7:17. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
Okay. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me.
Thank you. Okay, so again, the last verse we heard about the four kinds of people who approach Krishna. Right? Now he's taking it further. Right? He's saying of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. Right? So what's the difference here? Most people come to God because they need something, right? Please fix this problem. Please help me get this promotion. Right? Please make this pain go away. Right? And that's okay. Krishna accepts that. It's right. But the yani, the seeker of knowledge, a person who wants only the truth, is different. Right? This person isn't just asking for material perks. They've already realized that this world doesn't actually have much to offer me. Right? Even if I get what I want, it's temporary. So instead of chasing after these things, They're chasing after God himself, right? This is why Krishna says that they're the best. Their devotion, it's not situational, it's steady. Right? It doesn't just like flare up in crisis and then disappear when life gets better. It's like a constant flame. Right? So we can think about it like if you put a dry log of wood like near a match, it's going to catch fire, right? But if the log is soaked with water, it's going to take forever to light. So people that are covered with material desires, these material desires represent this water, right? It's going to dampen your ability to ignite devotion. But someone who's past that already, somebody who's like over it, right? Over the material world and just seeking God, their heart's like dry wood. It may not be ignited yet, but it's ready, right? It's not damp. There's no distractions, right? As soon as they come into contact with Krishna, that love is going to blaze brightly, right? And it's beautiful here. Krishna says, I am very dear to him, and he is very dear to me. Right? So it's not just devotion from the devotee side. Krishna's feeling it too. He's saying, this person who wants nothing from me except myself, they're especially close to my heart. So the takeaway here is devotion without an agenda is the strongest bond. Right? When we come to Krishna, not just for what he can give, but for who he is. Right? That's when the relation becomes intimate and unbreakable. Should we do one more? Do we have time for one more? Do you guys want to do one more?
I don't know. It seems nice to end on the very dear to him and dear to me.
Okay. Let's have some shares. Let's have some shares then. How are you guys connecting with this? When you turn to God or your spiritual practice, are you mostly seeking something? Or do you do it mostly in times of like distress, looking for comfort, success, relief? Or are you genuinely seeking connection with him? Can you notice like when your devotion is situational, when it's like flaring up during stressful situations?
May I share?
Yeah. Is this Shakti?
Yes, I'm like,
Yes.
I know. It's like I feel like she sees me, but everybody moves around the squares. Um, yeah, I think, I'm sometimes embarrassed, I feel like, to say it, but like I feel I the yearning, I like this morning I try and do my arti before I even get on here. And my yearning for Krishna, I mean, it's like it's obviously there because like it just like I say it and it makes me want to cry. Um, but I feel so like I feel like I'm not I don't know enough. I don't learn enough. I'm trying to like read everything. I'm trying to be everywhere and I've like almost filled my life. I've pulled back, but I like filled my life with so much spiritual stuff that it's like I couldn't is like I can't understand it all. Like I can't be in seven Bhagavad Gita groups. Like it's confusing. And then I'm in the front, I'm in this part, I'm in that part. So I've like made choices to take some things out of my life so that I can have that space to also like self-reflect, to um, to be in groups and then really go, okay, what am I learning here? What am I understanding? And reading has never been. So now I'm trying to read with like things like YouTube, people that are reading on YouTube, everyone's reading these books. So it's like I feel I feel like, oh my gosh, I should have done more yesterday. It was Radhastami. I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough. So I have this, I guess that's like I guess that is the Krishna, where are you? Like it's they're reaching out for him, going, I didn't do enough for you. I didn't do enough for Radha. I should have done more. So maybe that's maybe it's a good place to be. I don't know. It's like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm not sure if it is or if it isn't, or if I should have done more, or if it's enough. And I'm just I can just keep I'm trying to learn everything.
Yeah.
And it takes time.
It takes time. And Stacey, it's like your intention is so obviously pure. And it's like, I think sometimes for me, it's like just trusting that Krishna is in control. Krishna is arranging. If your intention is pure, right? If your intention is sincere, that's all Krishna needs to work his magic. So we don't even have to worry so much. Like just try your best. Just try your best. And then be in awe of Krishna as he works his magic in your life and try to allow space for that. And it's easy sometimes too for our material conditioning to creep in and like make it about me. Or, I was working with that yesterday. I was planning ratostomy and it was just so nuts. I was trying to get people to volunteer for things. It was just like, it was so difficult. And I could see my material conditioning creeping in. Like, this is so frustrating. I don't have enough time to do this. Is this gonna go well? Is this just gonna blow up? Is this gonna be a joke? There's all these things, these material conditioning, and it's like, no, none of that even matters. None of that even matters. We just do our best and we trust. And we're grateful for the service that we have and the knowledge that we have. And we trust that Krishna knows what's best for us. Krishna knows the exact right amount of medicine for us at the time. And and that's beautiful. Right? We don't have to control. We can just let go. We can just let go and try our best. And that's easier said than done, right? But we have these beautiful opportunities. Krishna tests us, when he gives us 2 days to plan a festival. And it's like, with very limited resources, it's like, okay, he's testing us. How sincere are we? How much can we make this about him and not about me? Right? And that I don't have enough time or I don't have the capacity or, how much can we just say, I'm trying my best, Krishna, and whatever it is whatever it is. And one more thing I was thinking when you were talking is a couple years ago, I remember I was talking to my Shiksha guru and I was like, I just want to grow spiritually. I'm trying to do this and this and this and this. What should I do? And he's like, look, don't tell anybody that I told you this, but you just need to chill out and watch a movie. It's like, you need to relax. You are just like, because the desire is good. It fuels us. But again, careful when it catches on your material conditioning and it's because it shouldn't feel, it should be blissful. And
Yeah, and
it should
I
be,
just want to share last thing is that it's
yeah,
it's hard. It is hard because that is the material conditioning is I should know it all. I should be reciting shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita. Well, why am I not doing that? How come I don't know them? And how come Radhastami? I wasn't in the middle of the kirtan. I wasn't doing this. And it's like, you know what? Like Krishna knows my heart. He knows my intention. And it's like that's all that matters. And I'll be where I'm gonna be as per Krishna's arrangement until he arranges something else. And it's
yes,
like it's hard. It's hard, like you said, because we're not used to that. It's like climb that ladder, get there, get
yeah.
there, get there, hurry up, get there, get to the top.
But even that conversation that we have with ourselves during those moments, that is spiritual life. When you catch your material conditioning and you can bring it back, you can say, look, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Krishna is in control. Right? That's spiritual life. That's the practice. That's the test Krishna's putting in front of you so that you can come to that realization. And when those things happen to us enough, we'll see over time we get more graceful. I feel more graceful even when I do service now and it's like I'm completely bombarded. It's like because we become more realized, we actually believe that narrative more and more. Okay, Krishna's in control. It's not just something we say, it's like it's something we imbibe. And because we imbibe that, we feel peaceful. We don't feel that scarcity mentality. We feel like, okay, Krishna's in control. I'm doing my best and this is blissful because I'm connected to Krishna because I'm using this material energy in his service and that's the best I can do. It's just try to try. Yeah. Perfect. You're doing it. Thank you. Mariah, I want to hear your insight.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, Shakti and Radha, both for sharing because I resonate with that a lot. I'm always like, I have regret. Oh, I should have moved into a temple and I should have, I should have had that time in the ashram where I got really trained up and I got to read and learn all these things. And, why didn't I do that for myself? And, I have like that hankering for that. Like, I just want my life to be regimented and like totally immersed in 24/7 Krishna consciousness. But I'm a mother, right? And I'm in a weird family situation. And so I like get hard on myself, like, oh, I worked all day. I didn't make time to like wake up early and chant my rounds or, but I'm doing my best, like, and I'm trying to add Krishna in every moment. And it was so perfect what you said. Trust that Krishna gives you the right amount of medicine that you need right now. And it's a hard one for me because I want to be so much more immersed. And I just have to trust, like, what I am doing is enough, or like or teaching Luna about it is my service right now. Teaching my daughter is my service. Raising my daughter is my service. Being where I'm at and being content and settled where I'm at is my service. And that's a big one. I'm really trying to accept and vibe right now because it's hard when you're doing in the midst of family life to feel like you're doing enough, especially. And yeah, and even these past two festivals, like Janmashtami and Radhastami, things have come up. I haven't been able to even go to the temple, but I've had my daughter home, and we did really sweet things. We made garlands on Janmashtami together, and it was small, and it was just her and I, but it was so sweet. And Krishna's still there in those moments. Krishna's still there when you're just able to just chant your japa. It's not always the big festivals and the big kirtan and the big dancing. I mean, he's there too, and we feel it more, and it's so joyful. But to find him in those small moments also, that's my practice recently. Is like, okay, yeah, I don't get to go to the festival today because we're a little sick, but we can still think of Krishna right here, right now. So yeah, thank you for sharing both of you because it's helping me to really remember those also in my life in those small moments. So yeah.
Thank you. So nice. Any final shares before we end for the day? Those are really nice. I'm glad we ended where we did and we had this beautiful conversation, dialogue together. Thank you all. You guys keep it real. It's so important to keep this stuff real. Because if not, we're just going through the motions. If we're not asking these kinds of questions, if we're not having these kinds of realizations, it's like Shakti, she's not getting emotional. It's like you're just going through the motions. It's so, and the motions are not going to transform our hearts. So going through the muck and and wondering why is what's going to transform our hearts. So thank you all for coming and for doing the work. And let's keep it going. We're almost at our 100th episode. So we'll see you all on Thursday and continue growing together, this family. Thank you.
Thank you.